I guess the big story today, other than the tragedy in Maui and other stories that just seem to be engulfing us right now, and for the past, 8 years, Merrick Garland earlier today elevated the prosecutor investigating Biden's son, Hunter, to the status of special counsel. Now, this is orgasmic for the right-wingers in this country. I don't know if it's a good idea or not. Special counsel has got certain investigative powers that a prosecutor doesn't have, yada, yada, yada. But in doing that, Garland is letting people know that the inquiry has entered a new stage. And it sets up the possibility that the 2024 presidential election is going to be shadowed by all these damn investigations, right? Now, I would imagine Hunter Biden deserves to be investigated. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Ribbit. Otherwise, Merrick Garland would not have appointed a special counsel, right? And I don't know that much about Hunter Biden's, shall we call them, extracurricular activities. I have a feeling he's not as pure as the wind-driven snow at all. And if a special counsel is needed, then a special counsel has now been appointed. But the circumstances are kind of weird. What was it last week when everybody said they'd reached an agreement where Hunter Biden was going to plea out to I don't know what? And then because of pressure from the Christian fascists in the House, that deal fell through. But special counsel, okay, investigate. Garland made the announcement at the Justice Department headquarters in D.C., and the person who's going to be the special counsel is the U.S. Attorney in Delaware who's handled the case for years, David Weiss. And this comes, according to New York Times, this comes 7 months after Merrick Garland appointed Robert Hur to be a special counsel investigating whether President Biden has mishandled classified documents. You know, the ones that turned up at his house in Delaware. Oh, my God. Garland, now, in telling the whole story here, Garland said he decided to elevate Weiss after Weiss informed him a couple days ago that the investigation had reached the stage where the powers of a special counsel were necessary to continue. Okay. Now, Weiss would have the authority to investigate, as all special counsels would, all related matters in the inquiry, and he could bring charges in any jurisdiction, meaning that Mr. Weiss would not be subject to day-to-day supervision by any official in the Justice Department, just like Jack Smith. And Merrick Garland described Mr. Weiss, who was appointed by Trump and kept on by Merrick Garland to complete this investigation of Hunter Biden as, quote, a career prosecutor, end quote. A career prosecutor. All right. Garland added this when he made this announcement. By the way, he didn't take any questions, of course, but this is what Garland said, quote, the appointment of Mr. Weiss reinforces for the American people the Justice Department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. I am confident that Mr. Weiss will carry out his responsibility in an even-handed and urgent manner and in accordance with the highest traditions of this department, end quote. Okay, well, we shall see what the special counsel shall uncover, but I think this comes as a result of pressure, but, you know, who am I to say? The appointment all but ensures that a years-long slog into a whole bunch of issues surrounding Hunter Biden's life, including his foreign business dealings and drug use and taxes, Jesus, are going to continue even longer than next November. Now, remember, weeks ago, this whole investigation appeared to be coming to an end. But the federal judge in Delaware, who was going to hear the plea agreement by the prosecutor and by Hunter Biden, that judge appointed by Trump refused to approve a proposed plea deal that would have settled tax charges and the gun charges. Now, you notice also the gun charges that Hunter Biden is facing. Nobody in these Christian fascist devil bastards has jumped to his support on the gun charge, right? Of course not. Now, the decision by Merrick Garland is going to piss off Democrats and the president, I'm sure. Democrats have privately complained that Merrick Garland, first of all, moved too slowly to investigate the orange bastards' attempt to overturn the 2020 election, which I think we can all agree on. Jesus God, 2.5 years ago? And that Garland should not have appointed the first special prosecutor, Mr. Hur, to investigate Biden's handling of classified documents. I mean, there was no there. But I think Merrick Garland is just trying his goddamnedest to show to these Christian devils that he is not going to show favoritism to anyone with the name Biden or any Democrats. Okay. All right. Now, Hunter Biden's lawyer, a guy named Christopher Clark, not the Clark that's facing jail time because he's one of Trump's former lawyers, but Christopher Clark said he expected what he called a fair resolution to the case, whether it is charged in Delaware or Washington or wherever. In a statement after the announcement of the special counsel being appointed, Clark said, quote, "The U.S. attorney has diligently been investigating my client for 5 years, and he had proposed a resolution which we fully intend to pursue in court. It's hard to see why he would have proposed such a resolution if there were other offenses he could have successfully prosecuted, and we are aware of none," end quote. So, say what you might, and some people listening to this podcast may accuse me of playing favorites. Oh, me? Moi? Favorites? No, not in my establishment. But he makes a good point. I mean, Hunter Biden's attorney makes a good point. This investigation of Hunter Biden has just been endless, and there's been no there. So what are they going to... What are they going to do? And the prosecutor had agreed to a plea bargain. Oh, well. It was back in June that Weiss, who is now the special prosecutor, and Clark, Hunter Biden's attorney, said they'd reached a plea deal that indicated the investigation would end. But about that time, the Christian terrorists in the U.S. House dug up 2 IRS agents who worked on the investigation and claimed that there had been political interference. And you remember how that turned out. It turned out both of them are just full of shit. There was no interference. They couldn't even testify as to what the interference was when they were hauled before the Christian fascist members of Congress who are investigating all this. And then late last month, that federal judge in Delaware put the plea deal on hold, pressing a range of concerns that Mr. Clark and the Justice Department prosecutors had distinctly different understandings of the immunity that Hunter Biden had received from the deal, and the judge had a bunch of concerns about that deal. In other words, the judge didn't like the fact that there was some immunity. Okay, so we shall proceed, right? Now, since the announcement of the plea deal, though, the Christian fascists in Congress went apeshit. And they accused Merrick Garland and the Justice Department of cutting what they called a sweetheart deal with the president's son. As they conduct their own investigation, these Christian terrorists do, they're doing their own thing in an effort to link Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings to President Biden. Now, this congressional committee has interviewed Biden's former business partner and 2 IRS investigators who worked on the case. They published summaries of unproven allegations from an informant. They've accused the Justice Department of failing to follow tips that could lead to the president. They've demanded an accounting of specific steps that the Justice Department took or did not take into the investigation. The one allegation made by the IRS agents was that Mr. Weiss had sought to bring charges against Hunter Biden in D.C. and California, but was rebuffed after prosecutors in those jurisdictions decided to partner with him. Okay, so the game continues. The game continues while the Republicans try desperately to find something, anything, to discredit Joe Biden. And if it means going through Hunter Biden's rib cage, okay, that's the path they're going to take. So now we'll see what happens, won't we? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.